Hey everyone, it's Nick from the Check Engine Podcast here. Thank you so much for tuning in for our first 3 episodes. This is just a heads up before you listen to episode 4. We're going to change the format up just a little bit for you here. This episode is not going to have such a set parameter or structure. It's going to be a little bit more of a free-flowing conversation. You know how to find us on social, you know the direct email, you know all of those things from listening before, so please comment on it, let us know what you think. We're always open to your feedback. So thanks again for listening and enjoy episode 4. Welcome to the Check Engine Podcast, the only podcast entirely produced by 3 winners of IMSA's Spirit of the Race Award at the 2015 Sailing 6 Hours of the Glen. Tonight, you are going to hear the story behind that award, so you all are actually going to know what the hell we're talking about. I've got Captain Quattro behind the controls over here. Tristan, how you doing tonight?
Ahoy, ahoy.
I don't have a cool nickname for you tonight, but I'm equally happy to have you here. Andrew, what is going on?
Hey, just right off the hop, I got to give a shout out to my big homie and his wife who had their daughter this past weekend. So welcome to the world to her. And
congratulations, guys.
Yeah,
many
they're listeners of the podcast, so
many congrats.
Listeners, shout out.
Many congrats. Thank you guys all for lending us your ear, for tuning in as always. Tonight we are going to tackle or dabble into the other half of the car culture. We're going to move from the road onto the racetrack. And literally we're going to talk about race tracks and race experience. Guys, if you want to, we're not going to talk best driver, best series. We can get into that stuff later if we run out of other ideas. But why don't you guys kind of take everybody through what tonight's episode is going to be about?
Yeah, tonight's episode is going to be what makes an exciting and an interesting and a pleasurable track-going experience. And there are a lot of elements to that we're going to get into. We're going to break it down for you a little bit further on in the podcast, but that's kind of the overall idea is, what makes it a good time to go watch racing. And there's a lot of different elements.
I'll make this pitch right now for the title of this episode. I think we should call it The Good, the Bad, and the Watkins Glen.
We'll get into that later.
Again, all will be revealed.
All will be revealed. And folks, be sure after listening to let us know what you think makes a good or a bad or a Watkins Glen experience when you go to the races. Reach out to us on social media. On Facebook, we're at Check Engine Podcast. Like us. If you don't like us, you might have a friend that does, so share us. We're also on the Twitter machine at Check Engine Pod. That's it. Follow us there. Retweet us there. We're on Instagram also at Check Engine Pod. And if you're still kind of familiarizing yourself with this whole technology thing and just want to go good old-fashioned direct email, you can reach us there as well. It is checkenginepodcast@gmail.com. So please be a part of this discussion with us. As always, we look forward to hearing from you. We'll kick this episode off with, as we always do, with some pace laps. And if you guys don't mind, I kind of want to engage a little bit with the crowd because let's start it off by saying this. There is a bit of a lag because tonight we have released episode 2 while we're recording episode 4.
Right.
And we're getting responses from episode 1. Yeah, so there's a little bit of a lag that we may close up later on as we go.
Yeah, if you don't hear from us right away, you probably will get a response on social media, but if we don't shout you out in the podcast right away, be patient. We have 2 kind of in the bag already because we know life happens and we want to have some to give you every week. In case we can't record every week, we want to have a cushion going. So we may be a little while to actually getting you on the air, as it were, but we are listening.
And we thank you for that. So we have been, basically we put 2 episodes in the can, as it were, before we let anybody know that we existed. So we have been getting some responses. When you guys first mentioned this idea of doing this, I don't think anybody really had any expectations of where it would go. We don't have a big sponsor pushing us. We don't have a big name behind the microphone that has a fan base or a following, pre-existing. So when we first launched everything and got out there in the social media world, the numbers may seem modest to other people, but I think to us it's just been awesome to see.
I'm so thrilled. Oh my gosh.
It's convinced me, the person who's least likely to talk publicly on a microphone, to continue making these episodes. So you guys win.
It's really good. Yeah, 81 was the count last time I checked on Facebook. 81 people following us. I love that. I think it's incredible. I never expected that kind of engagement.
And we've got the significant others and friends and family that kind of jumped on right away because they support us no matter what, and we love them for that. But it's starting to get to the point where we'll have a notification of a new like or a new follow, and we'll look and I would be like, oh, that's got to be one of Andrew or Tristan's friends, and then they'll come back to me and be like, do you know this guy? Like, so we're starting to get to that first degree of separation already, which is in a week is pretty flattering to me.
Yeah. So thanks to everyone who's liked or subscribed, followed us on Twitter, followed us on Insta. Keep it going. You guys are amazing. You are the best.
And you're in on the ground floor. You're growing with us, which is cool. So I want to get to a couple of these responses. We had good response to the first car episode. We got some cool posts. We got some good stories. I want to give my condolences to Andy, R.I.P. Sheila, the 03 Dodge Intrepid, that decided to challenge a utility pole to a game of chicken. Oof. Sorry to hear that, Andy.
Tough loss.
Sheila, you will be missed. We had a response about an 84 Olds Cutlass Supreme on there.
Best car name in history. Best car
name in history. And then on the post, they said they moved away from GM cars. And I wanted to ask why, but then I read, again, 84 Olds Cutlass Supreme, and I got my answer.
I suppose.
But the one I really wanted to hit on, for a few reasons, is the first post we got about a first car, and that is from one of our listeners, Kyle. And there's a twist to this that my two co-hosts don't know about yet. I told him there was a twist, but I didn't tell him what it was.
He's been teasing this for the past week.
Yeah, I've been really excited about this, and I've been teasing him like crazy. A few reasons why I wanted to shout out Kyle. Number one, last week when we kind of announced to the social media universe that we were here, before I could even navigate away from the page, Kyle was the first like.
Love it.
He was the first. He was the OG. He was the first one on board.
I'm gonna make him a hat.
We should make him a hat or something.
Yeah.
And he was also the very first to post with his new car.
Love it.
So I'm gonna read his post verbatim. Andrew, you'll be happy to know his first car was also a Saturn.
I did see that.
A 93 Saturn SL2 1.9 liter dual overhead cam. Man, she flew.
Yeah.
Even had a performance switch option built standard into the vehicle. And oh yeah, dent-resistant doors.
Obviously.
I wanted to hit on the dent-resistant doors because for a 16-year-old who's going to bounce off everything, how badass are dent-resistant doors?
They can be just bad if you hit it hard enough. Because they're dent-resistant, but they're absolutely shatter-prone.
They're shatter-prone in
especially
the
if it's cold. But yeah, for people who only hit things at sub 5 miles an hour in a parking lot like myself, I can see how they would be fantastic.
And there could be less to explain to mom and dad. Because if there's no dent or crease that shows up, mom and dad aren't going to be asking questions.
If you've gotten in an accident bad enough to shatter your Saturn, it would have badly dented enough a car that you'd still be talking to mom and dad.
Yeah, my
did your Saturn have the dent resistance?
It did. It had the same thing. That was one of Saturn's selling points. You don't bargain. You don't bargain for the price of the car, and it's all fiberglass. So that was supposed to be. Remember the commercial with
plastic.
The guy?
It's plastic.
Yeah, but remember the commercial with the guy who's about to get married, banging his head against the car? Yeah. That was their selling point.
Was that you?
Right. Was it you?
No, because I got married long after I got rid of the
right.
Oh, okay, gotcha. And okay, so here's the twist. If you guys remember, when I was sharing the story of my first car, the red 1997 Chevy Tahoe, I shared a story about a certain race that I had.
Yeah.
And Tristan had asked, I believe, was that Mustang his first car? We have our answer. It was not.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. Wow, look at that. Coming full circle.
Full circle.
Wow.
In 4 episodes, we have come full circle.
All right.
Short trip.
Short trip.
Very short trip. Very short trip.
Well, I guess that's it for the podcast.
And we're done. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in. So yeah, we wanted to hit on some of the social stuff just because we're very thankful for the response we've gotten so far. But we also have some other news and whatnot to touch on quick in the pace laps before we get going here. Andrew, what do you got?
Should we talk just a little bit of Buick here? Because they've recently kind of lost their minds. And
That does sound, however, like something they would use in an advertisement. Just a little bit of Buick.
that, you know what, that might be good.
If you don't know a little bit of Buick, then you don't know Buick.
So, what I read in the news, and it's kind of been all over the place, Buick is taking their name off of all of their vehicles starting in 2019. But they're only taking the letters, the nameplate, Buick, off of all the vehicles so they can attempt to sell them to younger buyers? I don't think that makes any sense at all.
I mean, I don't know what would sell, something to a younger viewer like a piece of seemingly ancient heraldry. It certainly couldn't be something like a nice, flat, simplistically designed, tastefully fonted logo with the name of the car company on it.
You know what's so interesting? I remember way back in the days of late last year, there was a car company named Buick that was linked up with a car company named Opel, and they sold the same car. Right, that's right. So here's something that we're going to do. We're going to post on social media a picture of the Regal Tour X, the Buick Regal Tour X, the new wagon. It's very nice. Tristan and I saw it.
Yeah, we sat in it at the auto show, and I said, yes, as a former Audi, current Subaru driver, this feels very much like home. It's a lovely all-wheel drive wagon, nice comfortable seats. I really like it. But then
you look at the steering wheel, or then you get out and you go around to the front, and it's like,
oh, there's a Buick badge on that.
So we're going to post a picture of the Regal, and we're going to post a picture of the Opel. Now these are the same exact car with regional differences in bumpers and headlights and blah 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 blah. They're functionally the same vehicle. They're made by more or less the same people. No one, if you see the Insignia wagon, you'll never consider the Buick again. They're the same car, but it's worlds of difference, and it's all in that little logo.
It's in the branding.
It's in the branding.
And for those who are not familiar, Opel is essentially Buick Europe.
It was formerly, but remember, GM sold Opel and Vauxhall to just completely get out of the European market altogether.
Yeah, which is why there was some prevaricating, essentially the same people, essentially the same car. There's licenses by GM to continue making their cars that basically were taken from Opel for a few years yet, but they are no longer actually related.
Yeah, there's something going on with a lot of American car brands. I think that might be something we'll have to look into at an episode. Either way, Buick is insane. I don't think this is going to work. I can't see how it does.
Yeah, I think if you're going to remove one thing, it would be the logo that looks like it's an ancient English crest, family crest.
It actually is a Scottish military insignia.
So there you go.
I was looking that up from the...
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Of course, and what's
keep
more
the
Scottish
name.
than Buick?
Well, the engineer the guy who started Buick was from Scotland, so...
Okay.
Not much, apparently.
Mick Buick.
Mac Buick.
Mac
please.
Buick.
Buick.
Yeah, I think if you have to remove one thing, you have to remove the actual insignia and keep the name of the car up there, because the logo has been around a while, but it's not as iconic as a logo like, I think the best example is Mercedes with the 3-point star.
Oh,
like you don't need the
Yeah.
word Mercedes on the car because you know what it is when you see that 3-point star.
And I'm sure we could do a whole episode on, interesting facts about car logos, but I'm going to throw in at least one more. That Mercedes logo was they were trying to go to represent the motorification of land, sea, and air. So yes, the Mercedes logo. The Mercedes logo is a logo dedicated to the German conquering of the world.
Well, way to be a buzzkill, man.
Yeah,
Jesus.
way to go.
Thanks.
Oh.
Thanks.
If we had a sad trombone.
Wah, wah.
There we go. Thanks, trombone.
Who needs sound effects? Yeah, I completely agree. That's not gonna help any. By the way, Public service announcement regarding Buick also. I just saw a commercial that they have redesigned the Regal. So if you are a listener and you are over 70 years old, please proceed to your local dealership because your car is ready.
And there's the problem.
Just dunking on him for no reason now. Just a big old dunk.
What else you got?
I have a little bit of neat car news if we want to move on to that before we get into the meat.
I got a couple of neat cars, little quick pieces too, if we want to get into that.
Let's do a little quick one. I saw a Honda Civic Type R in the wild. Everyone's really excited about this car. It's getting great reviews. It looks so dumb. It just looks dumb on the road.
Yeah, excellent auto show car. Fantastic looking race car.
You saw one too?
Probably the same one.
Probably the same one.
Knowing that your local Honda dealer is probably going to have
one
or two of these things, and we live in kind of the same area, it was probably the same one.
Probably white.
Yeah, it was white with red.
Same one, betcha.
Yeah. And it looks great parked. It even looks great parked, not on the auto show floor. Mm-hmm. But once it's moving, I am just back behind the controller of a Need for Speed game. It's just, I'm not one for super understated. We had some of our talks in previous podcasts about how I would live inside the entire row of bright Lamborghini orange Audis. So understatement is not what I'm all about, but it's just too much.
Yeah, I haven't seen one in the wild yet, but even the articles online or in auto magazines or whatever, it just looks like they over-engineered it. It just looks like they put too many bits on it.
They didn't stop designing when they should have.
Yeah, they just kept going. They didn't have like somebody be like, okay, stop, let's try it again tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. All right, calm down.
Everybody just calm down a little bit.
That being said, as mentioned with how many we're probably ever going to get in this area, pretty hard to find. Interesting to see it on the road.
Very true.
I've got a couple.
Yeah, go ahead.
I saw a car that was not overly designed and is actually one of the closest things to perfection on the road right now. I saw a black Audi R8 on the road.
Oh yeah.
Black side blade.
Silver side blade.
Ooh, that's
silver
the
side
classy
blade.
one.
Black rims, silver side blade.
Perfect.
It was gorgeous. And then I also saw a silver Cadillac ELR.
Ooh, ladies and gentlemen, ELR.
Which is, for those of you who don't know, it's an electric car that Cadillac made and then discontinued and nobody cared. But this was the first one I've ever seen, and honestly, like just driving next to it, it looks badass.
Really?
It is super aggressive in its stance. It's low in the front, taller on the back, skinnier in the front, wider in the back. It's got a big old fat rear end on it.
Yeah.
Super aggressive lines going up the doors that kind of flow into the trunk, and they blend and merge well with the lines coming off of the roof on the back. Like it is a really, really nice piece, and it's just an electric car that Cadillac made that just kind of nobody cared about.
I've never even seen one.
Yeah.
Yep, never seen one.
I had to look it up. I'm like, what is that?
That is a neat car.
Is that new? But no, it's actually discontinued 4 years ago.
Ah, sad.
So close.
So close.
I have one last one, and this is going to be a fantastic picture for social media. Real quick, I saw a Lexus RX 350, one like an early gen. They looked the same for like 15 years, with a giant 4-inch brush bar on the front, like a huge chrome fat one, and it's like, what are you doing, guy?
Like he's gonna take a Lexus off-roading through the brush.
The best part is it's not even. I've seen the picture. We'll post it. It's not even like he's going to take a Lexus off-roading.
No.
I mean, yeah, it's not even that one. I mean, I can say, with maybe some of the exception of some of the sand stuff you've done out in Vegas, Nick. I mean, I think generally I'm more of the off-road enthusiast in our group. It is nothing you're ever going to use. There's
of course not.
No tow points. There's no place to put a winch. Call ARB, get yourself a real bar for the front of that thing, and then we can make fun of you for that.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Let's at least make fun of you for something useful, right?
Exactly. You're not going to use it, and you couldn't if you wanted to.
Exactly. The picture is just brilliant. It's through the back window of my car. It's marvelous.
Coming soon to one of our social media feeds, everybody. All of the social media feeds.
Yeah. All right, let's go.
Let's go to tracks. Let's head to the racetracks.
Let's do it.
Let's head to the racetracks. So essentially, the idea for what we're going to talk about is what makes for the best fan experience when you spend your hard-earned cash to go to a racetrack for a day, a weekend, whatever it may be. And it doesn't just involve, where we have come to decide that it doesn't just involve the product on the racetrack, not just the cars on track. There's way more.
So much more.
So where do we want to start with this?
Just a quick mention about, you mentioned, when you're spending your hard-earned cold hard cash. For anybody who hasn't gone racing or gone to watch racing, racing is a fantastic way to spend that money. No matter where you go, Andrew might have some exceptions to that.
Yeah.
You can get a whole weekend of entertainment. More than 12 hours a day for 3, sometimes 4 days, for usually right around $100. Mm-hmm. And it's just such a fantastic price value. Just go try it sometime. It's exciting.
Exactly. I am the one out of the three of us that, look, I have an addiction to it, and I'm okay with that. I'm not trying to change, but I also don't.
Hi, Nick.
Hi, Nick. Yeah.
My name's Nick, and I'm a raceaholic. But I don't try to push it on people, but I always just tell people when we're talking about it, and they say, "Oh, it's just cars that going in circles on TV, and it's boring." I said, just see it once live, because it is so much different than just watching on TV or watching on a stream on your computer screen.
Yeah. Yep.
Just be there to experience the noise and the speed in person and the smells.
Let's say the smells.
And the
racing fuel.
Racing fuel type,
Yep.
like the whole experience. And then if you still don't like it, fine, that's fair.
Watch golf.
Then go watch golf for all we care. But yes, I agree. Just look it up, find a local racetrack, and just see what's coming, check out their schedule, and whether it's vintage, whether it's a traveling series, whether it's a club race, whatever it is, just go check it out. Just spend a day at a track one time, and then see if your mind changes. And when you go experience a racetrack for the first time, we've kind of agreed on a list of maybe 4 or 5 different aspects of what will make an enjoyable experience for you. We've come up with, the location of the track. We've come up with the atmosphere / hospitality that the track provides. What I like to call, for lack of a better term, a wow factor. Is there something that's really going to make you take a second look or kind of stop in your tracks? And then a term that I've heard on broadcasts before, so I think it's a word, but raceability. Because and we can get into this later, but I think there's a distinct difference from being a track that's fun to drive and a track that actually provides a good race to the viewer.
Right.
Yeah.
So those are the 4 that we kind of came up with, and by all means, folks, comment what else do you look for when you go to racetracks. Which one do you want to start with, fellas?
I actually would like to start with the home track.
All right.
With America's National Park of Speed, the best track in the whole world. Road America, get at us. You can sponsor us. We'd totally be cool with that.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, I would like to talk about Road America because I think across all categories, I mean, if it's not number 1, we're doing well. But location is especially good for Road America.
I think Road America could be an excellent template. I think what we can kind of describe what these are using Road America that we're very familiar with, and then kind of go on and give other examples of the good and the bad, and Watkins, Glen, of the other tracks that we've been to or have experienced. So yeah, I think we can get started.
Just real quick, Road America is in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin.
It is.
So that by itself, that name doesn't mean a whole lot. But in terms of location, it's sort of isolated, but it's also not very far from a whole lot of things. And critically to location, the town has a ton of racing history in it, including the track. The track used to be in the town.
In the town, and they take great pride in that. If you go into the town, there's signs and there's markers saying that this was the old turn 1, this was the old turn 6.
The old start-finish line.
The old start-finish line is like you can walk across the old start-finish line from the 1930s pre-Road America era Elkhart Lake races. So that is very important. As far as location, though, I was more thinking of just like the plot of land that it sits. And Road America is in the Kettle Moraine Forest.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
I will not flex my way too many years to earn science degree and explain what Kettle Moraine means, but what we can summarize it is it's fun.
Yeah, if you got like the up part of a roller coaster and the down part, that's it. And it took a lot of years in school for you to learn that?
Well, not just that. Other things. other things.
But they set the track on a piece of this forest land, and the cool thing about it was when they carved the layout of the track out of this land, they really didn't upset nature in any way. Mm-hmm. It follows the flow of the land very, very well. And what it does is add, because of these elevation changes, it makes for a lot of great viewpoints.
So many.
The track is huge. It's a 4-mile track. So it's impossible to see it all in one spot. It's just, it is. 4 miles through a forest, you're not going to see everything. But there's certain spots where you can sit, and in a 4-mile circuit, you can see damn near half of it.
Yeah, right. If you're right in the center of the infield, right in the hot spot of the action, you can see up towards the start-finish line. You can see turn, what is that, 5 as it comes in.
6 at the top of the hill.
So you're kind of right in the middle of the racetrack. You get to see the final corner, and you're just in one spot. All you're doing is turning your head to follow the action.
The noise, too. And you can hear them when you can't see them. You know where they're at because you can hear them going further away, and now they're making the turn, the carousel, they're coming back towards us. Everybody look over your left shoulder because they're going to pop out of the trees right now, and then they just come zipping by.
Yep. And that's another part of when we talk about the land that it's on, and we'll get into the other things that are, the other possibilities that are out there for this, but another thing that they've attempted to do, Nick mentioned disturbing nature as least as they could, they've left most of the trees. I mean, there are some clearings that are necessary for the paddock and some of the buildings and stuff like that, but they call themselves America's National Park of Speed, and it's for a reason because it is a park. I mean, you could take the racetrack out of it, and it's still a really nice, natural area aside from all the racing stuff.
And they have other state park type activities there also.
Right.
I mean, they have zip lines and disc golf courses on the property.
Yeah, that's right.
Hiking trails and biking trails. So it is a state park type location that they just happen to put a wicked ass road course in.
Oh man, that's great.
Yep. So that's kind of where,
But actually, if I could kind of go off of that, there is a way that the location that's exactly or very similar to Road America can go wrong, and I think Canadian Tire is a perfect example of that. In a lot of ways, the land is very similar. Elevation changes, a lot of natural trees, tons of paths all over the place. But Canadian Tire is not as good when it comes to location because it's too restricted. They didn't do enough.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the layout too. For those of not familiar, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, formerly known as Mossport. It's about an hour east of Toronto. Mm-hmm. We road tripped up there a couple summers ago. And yes, I think they just didn't take advantage of what they had.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that is Road America. I mean, it's hard to describe when you can't see it, just listening to us. But Road America is a track that turns back on itself, where Canadian Tire doesn't do that. It's all around the outside of the plot of land.
Very true.
And when it doesn't cut back on itself, where you can sit in turn 5, but also see turn 14 if you look over here, and turn 1 if you look over here, you're just not going to be able to see as much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. And then you can compare. I qualify 3 or 4 as far, maybe even more, as things that are land that are kind of like Road America. Road America, local boy, it's my favorite. You've got Road Atlanta, very similar. Lots of trees, lots of elevation changes.
I have Road Atlanta in my notes as well. Road Atlanta was gorgeous.
Yep, fantastic bit of land, also very park-like, without a lot of the other state park attraction kind of things that they've got. They are much more a dedicated motorsports facility, but same kind of elevation, using the natural terrain. A lot of the trees are intact. Same thing at Canadian Tire. Same thing, to a certain extent at VIR. As far as using the terrain has mostly been left intact. But then that's where you can kind of start to see the changes be made to when we talk about land. They're using the natural terrain. They're using it well. They haven't disturbed it very much. But there are no trees.
No, they cleared everything out.
Well, it used to be a plantation. It used to be a field. So that was already done before they got there. But then they didn't. There are tons of trees around VIR. Once you get into VIR, there are no trees. And if they had replanted some trees,
there was one tree.
And
The
then
oak
that one
tree.
fell down because it died.
Yeah, they cut it down.
Yeah, so so you were starting to fade a little bit, and then you look, at things like Sebring. Fantastic historical context. We'll get to that later in Nick's wow factor section. But
And atmosphere.
and
Because Sebring is a whole lot of atmosphere.
but it's a big flat part of Florida with no character. There's hardly any elevation changes. To get viewing, they had to by hand build berms. Viewing is very difficult at Sebring because they're not, that piece of land. You could take Sebring and dump it in any other part of Central Florida, and you'd be just as well off.
Right. It could be in Sebring, it could be in Ocala, it can be in Orlando, it can be in Homestead, and you're gonna look exactly the same.
It's almost edging into the territory of like ovals or something like Belle Isle, which is just a city course.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
kind of if it's too flat, if it's too constructed, it kind of loses something special.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're talking about for location.
And if we're gonna talk about Road America a lot, and go ahead and call us homers.
Yeah.
Ask any driver, ask any fan who has been there what their favorite is. I guarantee you Road America is going to be, if not the top, it's going to be real close.
If they have ever raced or are currently having Road America in the lineup for tracks that are on whatever series that they're racing, and they run a lot of stuff there now. They brought IndyCar back.
Thank God.
Various pieces of the NASCAR tree, IMSA, Pirelli World Challenge.
They race the bikes,
Yep,
the super
bikes are up there.
Superbike,
Anybody, you talk to anybody who's in any of those series, and they speak nothing but highly of Road America. Even outside of Road America, it's not like Rock Band, like, hey, fill in the blank city, we love you.
Right.
It's it's they actually do really enjoy this track. So yes, call us local favorites, but it is also well regarded outside of just us.
Right. And another reason for that, besides just location, is as we get into the next piece here, the atmosphere, hospitality that you get treated with when you arrive. One thing about Road America is because it's so old, they never really built garage areas. Mm-hmm. So unless it's the hot pits, and depending on what series you go up there to see, every ticket is A, general admission.
Yes.
So you can just wander around wherever you want. You got no assigned seats. And B, it's also a garage pass because there's actually no gates gating it off. So you can just walk right up to the trailers as the teams are working. If a driver's there, you can get a picture with him or her. I've asked mechanics, hey, what are you guys working on right now? And they're more than happy to share their passion with you and what they're doing. Sometimes they may have had a bad day and they may not be, they might be fixing crash damage and they may not want to talk because they're in a hurry. But if you catch them on a practice day when they just have all day to tune the car and it's more relaxed, I mean, the access you get there is second to none.
Yeah. You also learn this lesson at Road America. Race cars don't have horns.
That's extra weight. They don't need to bring them with them. Andrew, what do they use as horns?
They use the engine, and you will die of a heart attack immediately. Because they're very quiet. You know, if you have the earplugs in, if there's a race going on, you might not know there's a car behind you until you know there is a car behind you.
Yeah, until a Corvette explodes behind you, and you almost explode with it because it's the world's most surprising thing.
It's so loud. It's so scary.
That might be one of the downsides to the access piece if you ask race teams, because they're trying to get their car to the grid or the track, and there's just fans wandering and walking in front of them. And it is another public service announcement: whenever you're in a garage or a pit area at a racetrack, you do not have the right of way.
No.
Cars have the right of way.
The cars, the tire carts, the golf carts, the drivers' mopeds.
The tire carts will wreck you. They will just run you down. They don't care.
They don't care.
Yeah.
They have horns.
Yes.
And they use them and still hit you.
Ad nauseum.
Yeah.
They use them ad nauseum. So access. The cool thing about Road America and a couple other tracks we've been to, when we talk about hospitality, I really want to bring Circuit of the Americas into this too.
Yeah.
But is the concessions. Like, you got to eat if you're there for a long time. And the thing about Road America is every concession stand is always open no matter what, and it's independently run. Like, Road America provides the building, but who actually operates it is different in each spot. So
Yeah.
each spot has a different menu. Each spot had, like turn one, if you're there on race morning, it's usually run by a local bar, so they're passing out breakfast shots, pancake shots on race morning.
Yeah, and you've got local nonprofits do a lot of it too. So you've got Lions Club, my personal favorite, the Plymouth Optimists Club.
Yes.
Things like that. You've got a lot of these nonprofit, fraternal organizations, things like that are all running these food stands, and they get to keep a certain portion of the proceeds, which is, I think, one of the best parts. It's free advertising, charitable donations, and the food is fantastic.
Food is fantastic, and the fact that they, nonprofit or whatever it is, and they keep some of the proceeds, that's motivation for them to provide good service.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not just a track employee who's clocking in and clocking out, serving you a plate of lukewarm nachos. They actually take pride in what they're doing.
Yep.
Actually, Nick, if you want to go back to what you were going to say about Coda, because then I think specifically with hospitality, we can go through a couple other tracks and kind of compare and contrast.
Sure. So I want to hit Coda. Coda, short for Circuit of the Americas. It's a relatively new 5-6-year-old track that was purpose-built for Formula One just outside of Austin, Texas. It's near Austin, Texas, which in and of itself is a phenomenal city. Like, Tristan, you and I were there for about 2.5 hours. We didn't even get to the track yet, and I didn't want to leave. I was just going to quit my job and not come home.
Part of that is, is for me personally, I don't overly enjoy Texas. I'm sorry, anybody listening from Texas. I had to drive through a lot of it to get to Austin, and that may have tainted my view. Texas is just a gigantic state.
It really is.
And I think that might not have helped the case there for me. There was a lot of it between me and my race cars. But Austin was fantastic.
Austin was amazing, and the hospitality in Austin, from the concierge at the hotel to the waitresses at the restaurants we ate at, to the bars that with the bartender, I've never been to a place where there was more people that I was concerned that they were concerned that I was having a good time. Like, even the security guards at the track, by the second day, they knew us by name when we were walking in.
At least nickname.
Yeah. We're from Wisconsin, so we were dubbed the Big Cheese by the security guards. But concessions, we were eating was like
bison hot dogs.
Bison hot dogs.
Bison hot dogs.
And I mean, this was all done by it was corporate, but there was Sodexo.
Mm-hmm.
So it was corporate. It's like Cisco or any of the other food distributing companies. But there's a lot of effort put into it. But yeah, I mean, it tasted pretty good. But really, the good food was outside the track. When you compare that to some of the food at things like Road America, it pales in comparison. And that's what we're talking about, is that you can get a lot of these amenities at varying levels.
I think for varying levels.
Let's get the flip side here, because I know Andrew is just dying to let loose.
I'm just dying.
Go for it.
I think this was, you guys know, if you've been listening, we're award winners. We're champions. We are the Spirit of the Race award winners from Watkins Glen. So I think I'm going to talk a little bit about Watkins Glen, because on the complete opposite end of the hospitality spectrum was Watkins Glen when we were there. So it's a Salins 6 hours of the Glen. 6-hour race. Salins is a hot dog company. So here's me coming from Road America. Was that my first away race?
This was your first away race.
Yep.
So in my head, I thought, this is going to be sweet. We're going to get New York hot dogs. They're just going to be all over the place. It's going to be awesome. The track hospitality at Watkins Glen was more deserted than anything I've ever seen. There was no one in any of the buildings. They didn't have ice stands
there
open.
There was one gift shop.
One gift shop.
And 2 food concession stands.
One gift shop without track maps, by the way. Can I say that?
Yeah, we're a big fan of track map decals, and they didn't have any at Watkins Glen.
Well, and just track maps, so we always get general admission tickets, so we want to know where general admission is allowed and where it's not. And we didn't have a map, so we asked people, and 4 different people gave us 4 different answers. So we had no idea where the hell we were supposed to go or not supposed to go.
As we often do, we were camping, and there was no place to buy ice on the track.
Nope.
There was,
but they did do us the courtesy of telling us they only do that for big races.
Well, yeah, which is...
it's a bit demeaning.
It is, and the thing about what I think they failed to understand is their big race they have a NASCAR race there every August. They have become a NASCAR track, and it was very obvious to us that if you're not here for NASCAR, we just don't care.
Nothing's going to beat NASCAR. In
terms
America, nothing's beating the popularity, the people, and I get that they are all up for NASCAR. That's fine.
But if you're going to host these other races, I mean, don't even offer to run these other races. Don't host them. Don't let IMSA know, hey, yeah, you can race here. If you're not going to provide basic amenities for the people that are visiting you.
I think, sorry, Nick, just one thing
Yeah,
that
go for it.
really irritates me. Just to go back to the hot dog thing, it might seem like a really dumb thing.
Are you
Let's
hungry?
remember, Salons is the key sponsor for that race.
The title sponsor.
They should be all over that place. And I mean, because that's kind of the way it is when you get to other tracks and they have like watch sponsors. There's all these tents with $25,000 watches. They're everywhere. But could I get a $4 hot dog? No. The one place I found it was in a very remote, you guys remember this? A super remote concession stand on the far end of the infield, like way down by where they're keeping the Conti cars.
Yeah.
Just like in the middle of nowhere. That was the only place that had the hot dogs from the title sponsor of the race.
Yeah, it was
crazy.
It was crazy. And the thing of it is, like, they're big on NASCAR, and NASCAR, I mean, they do have people who camp, but NASCAR is very much, people show up on Sunday, they sit in their seat, and they go home. IMSA's culture is a car show, camping, full weekend culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very much pulled from more European-style endurance sports car racing.
Very much of their fan base is going to be there from Thursday through Sunday, camping. Mm-hmm. They need ice to camp. Every morning at 6 a.m. and every night at 7 p.m. there was a train of cars literally miles long heading in. All the gas stations were sold out of ice by Saturday.
We pillaged that poor town.
We pillaged.
That poor Valero. I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry to that Valero. It was just, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. So that's an example of bad hospitality. The next piece we want to talk about is what I want to call the wow factor, right? So that's, and that can be drawn from a number of different ways. Like, you walk in and just the sheer enormity of the facility. Yep. Circuit of the America is another great example. Just
runouts,
massive
paved runouts the length of my entire street at home. You've got the observation tower soaring over the rest of the grounds.
They have a 15,000 seat amphitheater in the middle of it. They hold concerts there. The massive grandstands, the state of the art garages and media center was just huge. Other places I've been fortunate enough to go to like that are Daytona. Just the sheer enormity of that place. And the same thing with Indianapolis. And Indianapolis, it's kind of doubly huge because when you're there, it's the greatest, most historic race on planet Earth. Like, it is the creme de la creme of anything in motorsports, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Some folks from Europe might say Monaco or Le Mans or something like that, but it's in the top 3 worldwide. Definitely. And you walk in and you see grandstands that can seat not 50,000, not 100,000, 300,000 people.
Right.
It is the largest single-day sporting event on the planet. And I've been fortunate enough to do it for over 20 years in a row now since I was 9 years old, and every Sunday morning when I walk in there for the first time, it's still just looking at it, it's like the first time every single time. It's just amazing.
Yeah. I will say that is one thing that Road America doesn't really have. It doesn't shock you right off the bat, with the singular exception of going down into the carousel and watching cars just sail around that corner. It's so incredible to watch because it doesn't seem like they should be doing what they're doing, but you get a whole line of cars at full chat coming around the corner, and it's unbelievable.
The sensory overload would wow you there.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
not the facility, but the sensory overload, because there's the wall of trees, so it's super narrow. It looks super dangerous.
Mm-hmm. It's very historic, but you have to be a historic motorsports person to or a local to know that it's historic. It's
True.
not like the Motor Speedway in Indianapolis. It's not Daytona. It's not Circuit de la Sarthe for Le Mans. It's it's not Spa. It's not a lot of these other places that have these big name recognition. You walk in, you're like, whoa, wow, this is fill in the blank, But it's just such a fantastic track.
Actually, one that I have a question about. You guys went, and I wasn't there for this one. Is there any of that at Road Atlanta? Because that has a bit of a name. That's recognition.
Yeah, and I would say that for people who are into IMSA, before at the American Le Mans Series, it's the big race. It's the 12 hours Yes, yeah, 10? Petit?
Petite is 10.
It's
Sebring's 12.
12, yeah. I thought they were both 12, but I was wrong. It's the big race. It's, Petit Le Mans. It's, cars from Europe come over and practice for Le Mans at Petit Le Mans, and it's a big deal if you're into that. But again, same kind of thing where you've got a fantastic historic track, not a lot of huge name recognition outside of that fandom.
And the Petit Le Mans race is, I believe, just over 20 years old, so it's relatively recent in comparison to everything else. So it's growing. The momentum is going, and it's getting bigger and bigger each year. But it's still kind of in its infancy as far as like main races. I just want to touch on atmosphere real quick because again, I want to because I forgot. Sebring is all atmosphere. Sebring is in March. Actually, as we're recording this, the 12-hour was just yesterday.
Yep.
And depending on when the schedule falls, it is either the opening weekend or the closing weekend of spring break. So, spring break in Florida, and I'd be willing to bet that there's about a third of the people who are partying in that infield who have no idea that there's even a race going on.
No, I came here to drink. I came here to drink. Is that a car? Yeah.
Drinking party, and then what's that?
What do we see? We saw a guy took a flatbed and he fashioned 3 brass stripper poles to the flatbed in the back.
Oh my gosh.
And hung Christmas lights from it.
Motorized couch.
A guy took a 3-cushion full sofa, and he cut out the bottom of the middle cushion, and then he took the body pieces off of a riding lawnmower.
Oh no.
So he's got the seat and the steering wheel sticking up through the cushion, and then he's giving people rides on his motorized couch.
Of course.
Just the Turn 10 Club, and you don't know what it's like, kind of like a pirate secret island. Like you don't know what it is until you've been there.
Pirate island.
Like you get out to Turn 10 and you see things that like Vegas would be jealous of.
Oh jeez.
And then you get a sticker.
Of course. Yeah.
I have the sticker on my vehicle, the Turn 10 sticker, and everybody asks what it is. I'm like, you just got to go to Sebring and find out.
You got to find out yourself.
So yes, Sebring atmosphere, we handled that. We got to give a shout out to Sebring. We talked about the wow factor, and then maybe the most important piece is, can it provide an entertaining on-track product when you go? I mean, the raceability factor.
Yeah. There's so many different things that play into that. I am going to start with Canadian Tire, actually.
Yeah.
Because all I heard going up to that race was power track. It's a power track. You got to have power to win a Canadian Tire. That's not what happened.
Not at all.
That's not what happened at all. Was that the first race that we saw that little Nissan just carry the whole race for Conti? What was that? Was that for?
I think
the
so.
Altima?
Yeah,
the
Nissan
Altima.
Altima.
The Nissan Altima.
And that made for fantastic racing because maybe there is something to what people are saying about a power track, but the people who don't have power on that track tend to drive, at least from what we saw, on the very limits of their ability, which leads to fantastic racing all the time.
And the cool thing about that is if the cars that do, like, you can see how cars make their lap times in different ways. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that little Nissan Altima was holding off the big rumbling, growling Mustangs.
Oh, man.
Who, up that one long straightaway leading to where we were sitting, those Mustangs would just eat that Altima alive. Mm-hmm. But that little guy would just get defensive and make sure he wouldn't get around him and get into the twisty bits and put the thing almost up on 2 wheels.
Yes.
And then in those corners, that Nissan was nimble. While those Mustangs were kind of slipping and stumbling around, that Nissan just pulled his gap. And then the next lap, here come the big angry Mustangs up the straightaway again.
And that's what we're talking about when we talk about raceability is it fun to watch? And I think, we can mention Canadian Tire. It definitely has a certain amount of raceability. It's limited by its width in a few places. It's hard to make a lot of passes, but it does provide a good primer on how to race car. There's a lot of different. You can see how different cars do their thing there. It's really interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Road America, Nick, you were mentioning before we started, it's a track that flows one piece to another. It's a pretty common comment from a lot of racers, and there's a lot of opportunity for passing. There's a lot of technical skill needed. It's fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. And the thing, when I think about what makes a track race well, there's got to be. Well, I'll just get into that difference that I mentioned earlier between fun to drive and fun to race. Like, so when I think of like a good driving track, Like, if you're in the seat of a car, VIR, Virginia International Raceway, would be a great driving track.
It's gotta be.
You have undulation up and down, and it's a lot of S's, so you're left and right. The car's getting light over these blind crests, and are you on the limit, are you not? You need to change a gear, and there's no brakes. There's that one long straightaway on the back, and even there we dump into what they call the roller coaster, downhill, sweeping left and right, so there's no brakes. Sonoma in Northern California, same way, a lot of S's back and forth, but when you're doing that, you tend to get a lot of people in trains because they're waiting for somebody to make a mistake to try to make a pass. Whereas a place like Road America has a lot of long straightaways into tight corners. So braking zones are long. You can out-brake somebody.
Road America, Road Atlanta.
Road Atlanta the same way. Circuit of the Americas. They have, that back stretch is almost a mile long, just dead straight as fast as you can go, and then it's almost a 180-degree hairpin that they go into. I mean, they are dynamiting the brakes in there. And if anybody slips up, locks up, wheel hop, you can take advantage of an opportunity there. So that's what I want to say about the difference. So I pick, Road America's a great one. Coda's a great one. Road Atlanta's awesome. And Canadian Tire kind of for a different reason.
Yeah.
And as much as we bashed Watkins, if it wasn't a torrential downpour the whole time, I think Watkins Glen would have been pretty racy. It's set up.
This is where we have to really kind of bare our souls and talk about why it is that we are world champions.
Go for it.
When we went to Watkins Glen, what year was that again? That was
2015.
2015, of course. How could I forget? 2015 at Watkins Glen, we were camping, and it rained for 72 consecutive hours.
More or less.
Something insane like that.
Yeah, it never stopped raining long enough in 72 hours to dry a single blade of grass, a single piece of clothing.
No.
Or, unfortunately for us, a single piece of tent material.
Oh, gosh, my tent was ruined. But here's the thing that I remember so clearly about that track. We had one day where we were able to go wherever we wanted on the track. We had sun, we had good weather, and there was Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and it was great.
Brilliant.
It was fabulous.
Yes.
And then the next day, I remember going to the infield where they had the grandstands and watching the guy in the broom trying to clean the water out of the what is that, turn 2? Out of the little hollow in turn 2, and it just didn't do anything. I mean, there were huge 4-foot shouts of water, and there was just still water there.
Best vehicle for that track on those 3 consecutive days would have been a Wisconsin Dells Duck.
Yeah.
There were stands
much.
Every single race, I believe, except for maybe one, eventually got red flagged for rain that weekend.
Yep, every single thing.
And I think we named this podcast "The Good, the Bad, and the Watkins Glen" this episode because we had just an awful time there. And we're talking about bearing our souls. That's why we won the Spirit of the Race award. We were,
we stuck it out.
We stuck it out.
It was so bad. They officially announced that everyone who was at the race that day was the Spirit of the Race award winner.
And they especially said the people who were camping,
that
which was
us.
us. And so that's why we got the Spirit of the Race award, and it's why we have this kind of tilted view of Watkins Glen. I think we discussed some of the hospitality issues. Those are going to be issues whether or not, literally whether or not.
Yes.
But I think why we have such a negative memory of Watkins Glen is the weather. We could not escape it except for a quick run into town for some buffalo wing pizza.
Just to be completely fair.
And ice.
Yeah.
Right.
Every day. Twice a day.
Twice a day for
and
ice.
to pillage the Walmart for sweatpants.
Sweatpants and new shoes because ours were falling apart after being wet for 3 days.
But going into that town, the town of Watkins Glen itself, it's so beautiful.
Awesome.
The waterfalls and we went
Seneca
to this
Lake, right on the water.
And on sunny days, the track is beautiful.
The sunny days, yeah.
So the 4 minutes of sun that we had,
Yeah.
it looked great.
The moral of the story is, if you can make sure the weather is good before you go to the track,
yes,
please do. Because it can turn an otherwise very, very pleasant experience into something you never want to do again. And I feel like kind of apologizing to Watkins Glen for my negative attitude, but that's me. I'm super affable and kind of think that way.
They know what they did.
But yes, they do have some things to fix regarding hospitality, but the location, the track, the town, beautiful place.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, that was a lot.
I think that that pretty much covers what makes a good versus a bad racetrack, what folks should look for.
You gotta have it all, but make sure to go to Road America because it's the best track in the whole world.
Call us homers, come at us, bro.
That's
yeah,
right.
I mean, just like the internet meme, change my mind, fight me, whatever it is.
Change my mind.
I
Road
think
America is the best track in the world.
Change my mind.
Wisconsin in August, fantastic terrain, fantastic concessions.
A town that embraces the history.
A wonderful track. All the drivers say it's a wonderful track. I think you've got some pretty solid contenders, but I still want you guys to change my mind. Send us an audio recording explaining it. Post, comment, tweet at us. Change my mind.
Perfect. Change our mind. Email us, checkenginepodcast@gmail.com. Change our mind. Comment or share on Facebook @CheckEnginePodcast. Change our mind. Twitter or Instagram @CheckEnginePod. Change our mind, guys.
Absolutely.
Change our mind.
Yeah.
We should be wrapping this one up, though.
Yeah, I think this is about
This is about long
all she
enough.
wrote.
People are getting bored with us at this point.
Probably.
Yeah. Before we go, any quick thank yous?
Let's see. I'd like to thank Diet Coke.
Okay.
As you've heard in previous podcasts, courtesy of
You
Nick.
do that every week.
It's something that I do every week, every day. It's the only reason I'm chipper enough to do this podcast this late at night.
I gotta thank a couple things. I gotta thank almond milk, but only the unsweetened vanilla because everything else is trash. I gotta thank 3D printers for being the most useless fun I've ever had. And I gotta thank the Nintendo Switch because it's amazing.
There you go. That's a lot of thank yous.
Yeah,
You piled a few bangs for the buck there.
I'm just very thankful tonight.
It must be.
A rare occasion, folks.
I want to
Mark
thank,
it down.
I want to thank all the people involved in road construction.
Oh, whoa, okay, this is, wow.
Because without their hard work, we would have no place to go have fun with our cars.
All the gold brickers.
There you go. There you go. So thank you guys for providing us with a playground to fuel our passion. We appreciate your hard work. And as always, thank you, the listener. Even if we suck, you guys are always awesome. Again, find us on social, email us, comment on this episode or any past episodes. We're available anywhere pods are cast. Google Play Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, Pocket Casts, or at anchor.fm/CheckEnginePodcast. We appreciate you tuning in, and we'll talk to you again soon.